I didn't find a text message. I didn't find lipstick on a collar. I didn't walk in on anything dramatic. I found a hotel charge. It was a Tuesday afternoon, painfully ordinary. I was at my desk during lunch, half paying attention to emails while scrolling through our banking app to make sure the mortgage had cleared. That's when I saw it. $487.32. The Shoreline Grand, Santa Monica. The Shoreline isn't some roadside motel you book by accident. It's ocean view suites, rooftop cocktails, valet parking. It's the kind of place you take someone when you want to impress them, or hide with them, and it was booked on a Wednesday. Nora was working late that Wednesday. I stared at the charge longer than I should have. My brain tried to protect me at first. Corporate meeting. Client presentation. Maybe her company card didn't go through and she used ours temporarily. Maybe she mentioned it and I forgot. But the charge wasn't pending. It had cleared. $487.32. Final. My chest tightened. Not in a dramatic way, but like someone had quietly turned down the oxygen in the room. 10 years of marriage. 10 years of shared accounts, shared calendars, shared passwords. We'd always operated like a team. At least I thought we had. I didn't call her immediately. I didn't text. I didn't accuse. I closed the app. But I couldn't close the feeling. That night I moved carefully, like I was walking across thin ice. I made dinner. I poured her a glass of wine. I watched her when she came home. She walked in at 8:42 p.m. Not rushed. Not disheveled. Calm. Professional. She kicked off her heels, sighed, and gave me a quick kiss on the cheek. Long day, she said. I searched her face for something. Guilt, anxiety, anything out of place. But Nora had always been composed, polished, controlled. While she changed, I rehearsed the question in my head. Keep it light. Don't accuse. Don't sound paranoid. When she came back into the kitchen, I leaned against the counter. Hey, I said casually. Quick question. Did you book something at the Shoreline in Santa Monica? There it was. The shift. It was small, almost invisible. Her shoulders tightened for half a second before she reached for a glass of water. What? There's a charge on the account. Midweek. She didn't look confused. She looked irritated. Oh my God. She exhaled, sharp and annoyed. Are you serious right now? The response hit me sideways. I'm just asking. You're monitoring our bank account now? It's our joint account. She set the glass down harder than necessary. This is exactly what I mean. What do you mean? You're always looking for something. Always suspicious. Always digging. Digging? I saw a $500 hotel charge. And instead of assuming it's work-related, you jump straight to what? Cheating? She laughed, but it wasn't humor. It was defensive. Cold. You're projecting your insecurity onto me. Insecurity. The word landed heavier than I expected. I didn't accuse you of anything. You didn't have to. It's written all over your face. I could feel the conversation tilting, slipping away from the original question. Somehow the focus wasn't the hotel anymore. It was me. You've been like this for months, she continued, questioning where I am, asking who I'm with. It's suffocating. Suffocating. 10 years together and now I was suffocating her. Nora, I asked about one charge. Because you don't trust me. That's not fair. No, what's not fair is being treated like I'm on trial in my own house. I felt myself starting to shrink, and I hated it. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't accusing. I was confused. You're looking for problems where none exist, she said, crossing her arms. And honestly, that's what's destroying this marriage. Destroying. I blinked. A hotel question is destroying our marriage? Your paranoia is. Paranoia. She had a word for everything. Every concern I raised was rebranded as a flaw in me. I work hard, she continued. I stay late. I handle clients. And instead of support, I get interrogation. I asked one question. Because you already decided the answer in your head. That wasn't true. I wanted it not to be true. I wanted her to laugh and say it was a billing error. I wanted something solid. Instead, I was being repositioned as the unstable one. "I can't live like this," she said quietly now. Not angry, not loud, just tired. Walking on eggshells because my husband assumes the worst. The room felt smaller. "Maybe try trusting your wife," she added. Trusting. The irony almost made me dizzy. She grabbed her laptop and headed toward the bedroom. At the doorway, she stopped. "And for the record," she said without turning around, "it was work-related, but if this is how you're going to react, maybe next time I won't even bother telling you anything." The door closed, and I stood alone in the kitchen. I replayed it immediately, every sentence, every shift. I had entered that conversation confused and calm. I left it apologetic. For what? For noticing? For asking? I opened the banking app again just to make sure I hadn't imagined it. The number stared back at me, cold, unapologetic. $487.32. Imaginary hotel room, she had called it. But the charge was real. The date was real. The late night at the office was real. And yet somehow I was the problem. I leaned against the counter and stared at my reflection in the microwave door. I didn't look angry. I looked unsure. That scared me more than anything. Because doubt is contagious. Once someone plants it inside you, it grows. Was I insecure? Had I been too questioning lately? Had I been distant? I started scanning backward through the past few months, looking for evidence against myself. That's how subtle it was. Instead of questioning her, I was questioning my own perception. Gaslighting is a strong word. I didn't want to use it, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the ground had shifted beneath me. That night she acted normal, brushed her teeth, set her alarm, climbed into bed without hesitation. She didn't reach for me. I didn't reach for her either. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, the hotel name replaying in my mind like a neon sign. The shoreline grand, ocean views, valet parking, midweek. And the worst part wasn't the possibility of betrayal. It was how quickly I had been made to feel guilty for even wondering. That was the first crack. Not loud, not dramatic, just a thin fracture running through something I used to believe was solid. And once you see a crack, you start looking for others. After that night, I told myself I'd drop it. That's what a secure husband would do, right? Trust. Let it go. Don't be that guy. But something had shifted inside me. And once a thought embeds itself deep enough, it doesn't just disappear. It waits. It replays. Connects dots you didn't want to connect. I started mentally rewinding the past few months. At first, the changes had been subtle. Nora used to come home and decompress with me. We'd sit on the couch, legs tangled, half watching whatever show we were into. She'd talk about office politics, about Jared, her boss, about clients who were difficult but manageable. Somewhere along the line, the details stopped. "Long day," became the standard answer. When I'd ask what happened, she'd say, "Just work stuff," and disappear into her phone. That was another thing. Her phone. It used to sit face up on the table. Now it was always face down. Notifications silenced. Screen brightness lowered. If I walked into the room while she was texting, she'd subtly tilt it away. Not dramatically, just enough. The first time I noticed, I ignored it. The 10th time, it lingered. Then there were the business trips. Nora's job always involved occasional travel, but suddenly the trips increased. Short notice. Vague itineraries. "I'll be in San Diego." "Which hotel?" "I don't know yet, they're booking it." "Who's going?" "Just the team." The team. Always the team. No names. No stories afterward. When she'd come back, there were no souvenirs. No funny anecdotes. Just exhaustion and an eagerness to shower immediately. I started remembering nights she claimed urgent meetings. Client crisis. Board review. Investor dinner. Every time I'd ask for details, she'd sigh like I was burdening her. "You don't need the play-by-play." Maybe she was right, but the int asterisk Macy had changed too, and that's harder to ignore. It wasn't that we stopped sleeping together overnight. It faded gradually. Excuses became frequent. "I'm exhausted." Headache. Big presentation tomorrow. When we did try, she felt distant, physically present, mentally somewhere else. There were moments where I'd look at her and feel like I was intruding on someone else's thoughts. I told myself it was stress, corporate promotions, bigger responsibilities. We were in our mid-30s. Life gets complicated. But it wasn't just S*X. It was touch. She stopped reaching for my hand in public. Stopped leaning into me on the couch. Stopped kissing me goodbye with anything more than routine. Routine. That word haunted me, because routine is what people fall into when their heart isn't fully there anymore. And then there was the irritation. Every question felt like a trigger. Who's that texting? A colleague. Which one? Why does it matter? It always flipped back to me. You're being paranoid. You're overthinking. You're too sensitive. I started adjusting my behavior to avoid conflict. Choosing silence over curiosity. Letting things slide. But silence doesn't bring peace. It builds pressure. I remembered one Sunday afternoon about 2 months ago. We were grocery shopping. I reached for her waist casually, the way I'd done 1,000 times before. She stiffened. Not violently, just enough to pull away a fraction. I pretended not to notice. Later that night, she spent 40 minutes in the bathroom with the door locked. When she came out, she was smiling at her phone. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah," she said too quickly. Another dot. I replayed a dinner we had with friends. She had been unusually quiet, distracted. At one point her phone buzzed, and she excused herself to take a quick call. She was gone 15 minutes. When she came back, she seemed energized, almost glowing. I'd asked who it was. "Work," she said flatly. "Work." Everything was work. The more I replayed, the more I realized something terrifying. It wasn't one big red flag. It was 1,000 small ones. A gradual emotional withdrawal disguised as busyness. And the cruelest part? She had slowly trained me not to question it. Every concern reframed as insecurity. Every instinct dismissed as overreaction. So when I saw that hotel charge, it didn't feel like a random anomaly. It felt like confirmation. I started remembering the night before that Wednesday. She'd spent extra time picking out an outfit for the office. Dark blue dress. Heels she usually saved for events. "Big client," she said. She left earlier than usual. Came home later than usual. Didn't kiss me that night. Said she was drained. And I believed her. Because I wanted to. The scariest realization wasn't that she might be cheating. It was that she might have already left emotionally. That I had been living beside someone who had quietly checked out. And if that was true, then the hotel wasn't the beginning. It was just the first undeniable receipt. By the end of that week, I stopped arguing with myself. Patterns don't form accidentally. Behavior doesn't change without reason. You don't become secretive, distant, defensive, and emotionally unavailable for no cause. I didn't have proof yet, but I had a timeline. I had inconsistencies. I had a growing certainty that the man she accused me of being controlling, paranoid, insecure was a narrative she needed me to accept. Because if I doubted myself, I wouldn't doubt her. That realization hit harder than the hotel charge ever could. Because suspicion hurts. But manipulation, that reshapes you. And I could feel myself reshaping. Becoming quieter. More observant. Less reactive. If she thought I was looking for problems before, she had no idea. Suspicion changes you. It sharpens your hearing. It slows down time. It makes you notice patterns you once ignored. But suspicion still leaves room for doubt. Proof doesn't. The proof didn't come in some dramatic, cinematic way. I didn't hack her phone. I didn't hire a private investigator. It came through something painfully ordinary. An expense report. Nora had left her work bag on the dining chair one Friday evening. That wasn't unusual. What was unusual was that she had fallen asleep on the couch mid-conversation. Exhausted, she said. I stood there for a while watching her breathe. There was a time when that sight made me feel safe. Now it made me feel unsure. Her laptop was partially sticking out of the bag. The screen wasn't locked. I told myself I wouldn't look. Then I told myself I needed clarity. Those two thoughts wrestled for about 10 seconds. Clarity 1. I opened the laptop slowly, almost respectfully, like I was handling something fragile. Her inbox was open. Nothing obvious there. Just corporate threads and client updates. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for. Then I saw it. A folder labeled Q3 Expense Reports. My pulse started to climb. I clicked. There were PDFs organized by month. September caught my attention immediately. That was when the Shoreline charge appeared. I opened the file. It was Jared Miller's corporate expense submission. Jared, her boss. I'd met him twice. Firm handshake. Polished smile. The kind of man who made eye contact a little too long. The document listed meals, transportation, accommodations. And there it was. The Shoreline Grand Santa Monica, Executive Suite, $487.32. The date matched the charge on our joint account. Exactly. Same day. Same amount. For a moment, my brain refused to process it. Felt like looking at a glitch in reality. Why would Jared's corporate card pay for the exact same room Nora paid for? Unless she hadn't paid for it. Unless the charge on our account wasn't for booking the room, but for something else. Or worse, unless she had used our card for incidentals. My hands were shaking now. I scrolled further. 2 dinners listed that same evening. Rooftop lounge. Wine pairings. 2 guests. 2. I stared at that number until it blurred. 2. I closed the document and opened the August report. Another hotel. Different city. Same pattern. 2 guests. Premium suite. Midweek. Everything inside me went quiet. Not explosive anger. Not shouting. Silence. Because this wasn't suspicion anymore. This was structure. This was repetition. This was a relationship. I sat back in the chair, staring at the wall. The room felt colder. I thought about every time she had defended Jared. He's demanding but brilliant. He's tough but fair. He sees potential in me. Now I wondered what else he saw. I went back to September's file and read the submission note. Client strategy session extended overnight. Extended overnight. The phrase almost made me laugh. I pictured her standing in our kitchen, accusing me of paranoia. Imaginary hotel room. Work-related. Technically, she hadn't lied. It was work-related. Just not the way I had hoped. I checked the timestamp on the submission. Jared had filed it the following Monday, which meant he had documentation, which meant this wasn't spontaneous. It was planned, careful, recurring. I felt something break inside me then. Not loudly, but permanently. The worst part wasn't even the physical betrayal. It was the coordination, the logistics, the meetings, the shared secrecy. I imagined them texting, planning, laughing about the ease of it. About me. That thought burned. I closed the laptop gently and slid it back into her bag exactly as it had been. Then I went into the bathroom and stared at myself in the mirror. My face looked normal, but my eyes didn't. They looked older, tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. My wife had slept with her boss. Not once, multiple times. And she had convinced me that I was unstable for even asking questions. That realization changed the temperature of my blood. When she woke up later, stretching casually on the couch, I watched her differently. She smiled at me. "You okay?" she asked. The irony was suffocating. "Yeah," I said evenly. "Just tired." She nodded, unconcerned. Unconcerned. Because in her version of reality, I was insecure but manageable. A husband who doubted himself more than he doubted her. She didn't know the doubt was gone now, replaced with certainty. That night I lay next to her in bed and felt like I was lying next to a stranger. I didn't confront her. Not yet, because proof is powerful. But timing is more powerful. I wanted to understand the scope, the duration, the damage. I wanted to know how long my marriage had been divided into 2 realities. The one I lived in, and the one she curated. I stared at the ceiling until 3 a.m., replaying everything. The gaslighting, the irritation, the coldness, the hotel, Jared Miller. I remembered the way he had clapped me on the shoulder the last time we met. "Take care of her," he'd said with a smirk. I almost laughed now at the cruelty of it. He wasn't asking me to take care of her. He was thanking me for doing it. And in that moment, something inside me hardened. The confusion was gone. The self-doubt was gone. All that remained was clarity. My wife had slept with her boss, and she had underestimated the one thing she thought she controlled. Me. I didn't confront Nora right away. Once you have proof, you realize something important. Anger is loud, but strategy is quiet. And I wasn't interested in screaming. I was interested in understanding the full architecture of what had been built behind my back. Jared Miller. I started paying attention to the name the way a detective circles it in red ink. I looked him up more carefully. Corporate bio, industry interviews, awards, panels. The kind of man who built a reputation on control and precision. Married. That detail sat differently now. Laura Miller. There were only a few public photos of them together. Charity galas, holiday fundraisers, posed smiles. She stood beside him like part of the brand. Elegant, composed, slightly in the background. I stared at one picture longer than I meant to. She wasn't naive looking. She wasn't fragile. But there was something in her expression that felt restrained. I wondered if she knew, or if she had been trained not to ask. 2 weeks after I found the expense reports, Nora mentioned an upcoming private investor reception in Palm Springs. "Spouses are invited," she said casually while scrolling through her phone. "It's mostly optics." "Optics? Do I need to go?" I asked evenly. She glanced at me, calculating. "It would look good if you did." Look good. Not, "I'd like you there." Not, "It would mean something." Just optics. I nodded slowly. "Sure." She seemed relieved, which told me something. She wanted the image intact. That event changed everything. Palm Springs was warm that weekend, dry desert air cutting through the artificial glamour of the hotel resort. The kind of place designed to look effortless while hiding how curated it all was. Nora looked flawless that evening. Silver dress, hair pinned back just enough to show her neck. Controlled elegance. For a split second, I almost forgot. Almost. We arrived together hand in hand. Performance mode. Inside, the reception buzzed with low music and quiet deals being made over champagne. I spotted Jared within minutes. Tall, relaxed, comfortable. And next to him, Laura. She was wearing navy. Understated. Graceful. Our eyes met before I even realized I was staring. There was something in that glance. Not recognition. Recognition of recognition. Nora squeezed my hand slightly when Jared approached. "Mark," he said smoothly, extending his hand. "Glad you could make it." His grip was confident. Practiced. "Wouldn't miss it," I replied. Nora introduced Laura, though she and I already knew each other's names without ever speaking them. "It's nice to finally meet you," Laura said politely. Finally. The word lingered. There was something about her tone that felt layered. We exchanged small talk. Careers, weather, travel. Nora and Jared eventually drifted toward another group of investors, leaving Laura and me momentarily alone. It wasn't planned. It wasn't dramatic. But it was the first unscripted moment of the night. "You've been married how long?" she asked gently. 10 years, I said. She nodded slowly. 8, she replied. Silence. There are moments when strangers share more honesty in silence than friends do in conversation. "Palm Springs isn't really my scene," she added quietly. "Mine either." A faint smile touched her lips. "I suppose we're here for appearances." Appearances. There it was again. I studied her more closely now. Not as Jared's wife. As someone possibly living in the same alternate reality I was. "I've heard a lot about Nora," she said carefully. "Good things, I assume. She's ambitious." That wasn't praise. It wasn't insult either. It was observation. "And Jared?" I asked lightly. Her eyes shifted almost imperceptibly. "He's very good at getting what he wants." There was weight in that sentence. Not anger. Resignation. Across the room, I saw Nora laughing at something Jared said. His hand rested briefly on the small of her back. Professional, subtle, but not invisible. Laura saw it too. Our eyes met again. That was the moment I understood something important. This wasn't just my marriage unraveling. It was a pattern, a system, and Laura wasn't clueless. She was surviving it. I sometimes think, she said softly, still looking forward, that certain men mistake power for immunity. Immunity. I didn't respond immediately. Immunity from consequences? I asked. Her lips curved faintly. From being questioned. That landed hard. For months I had been the one questioned. My perception. My instincts. Now I was standing beside someone who seemed to have lived in the shadow of that same mechanism. Do you ever get tired of pretending? I asked quietly. She inhaled slowly. Yes. One word. Honest. Unfiltered. Across the room, Nora caught me looking and smiled brightly, raising her glass slightly as if to signal everything was perfect. I smiled back. Performance. But something fundamental had shifted in that brief exchange with Laura. I had walked into that event believing I was alone in knowing the truth. I wasn't. And more importantly, Jared wasn't untouchable. He just operated in environments where no one challenged him. The reception continued. Speeches, applause, deals. But beneath it, a silent understanding had formed between two spouses standing slightly outside the spotlight. When Nora and I drove back to the hotel later that night, she seemed pleased. See, she said lightly, that wasn't so bad. No, I agreed. It was enlightening. She glanced at me, but I kept my tone neutral. What does that mean? Just interesting dynamics. She studied me for a second longer than usual, but she didn't push, because she still believed she controlled the narrative. What she didn't realize was this. The lines were starting to intersect, and the story she thought she had carefully managed was about to widen beyond her control. The Palm Springs reception should have been the moment I confronted everything. Instead, it became something else. It became alignment. A week after that event, Nora informed me there was another corporate gathering larger, more public. A year-end executive reception, again in Palm Springs. Same resort, bigger audience. You're coming, she said this time, not asking. For optics, I replied calmly. She paused. Yes, optics. That word had started to sound like code for concealment. I agreed without resistance. But this time I made a different call first. Laura answered on the third ring. Her voice was steady, but cautious. I wasn't sure you would, she admitted after I introduced myself. Neither was I said. There was a pause. Not awkward, measured. You're going to the reception, I said. Yes, so am I. Another silence. Then she understood. You don't want to go alone. No. The quiet stretched between us, but it felt different from the silence with Nora. This wasn't manipulation. This was calculation. I think, Laura said slowly, that some narratives collapse more effectively in public. There it was. Clarity. The night of the reception arrived warm and electric. The resort lights were brighter this time. More guests. More executives. More donors. More eyes. Nora dressed with extra care. Red gown. Controlled glamour. She studied herself in the mirror longer than usual. You ready? She asked. Almost, I replied. She assumed we would arrive together. We didn't. I told her I had to take a separate car because of a work call. It was the first lie I'd told her in years. She didn't question it, because she still believed she understood the board. I arrived at the resort 20 minutes before her. Laura was already there. Navy again. Different dress. Same quiet strength. For a moment, we simply stood side by side outside the entrance. This isn't about revenge, she said softly. No, it's about clarity. Yes, we walked in together. Not touching. Not dramatic. Just aligned. The effect was immediate. Conversations slowed as people recognized us, not individually but contextually. Mark, husband. Laura, wife. but not with the people they expected. Jared spotted us first. His expression didn't change instantly. He was too practiced for that. But I saw it, the recalibration, the internal adjustment. Nora entered moments later. She scanned the room automatically, searching for me. Her eyes found us. Time didn't freeze, but it tightened. The distance between us across the ballroom felt charged. She didn't rush over. She couldn't. Too many witnesses. Jared approached first. "Mark," he said smoothly, though the edges of his smile were sharper now. "Good to see you." "Jared." He glanced briefly at Laura beside me. "You two arrived together?" "Yes," I answered evenly. Laura didn't speak. Nora reached us seconds later. Her composure was impressive. I'll give her that. "Mark," she said lightly. "I didn't realize you'd made friends." There it was, the subtle attempt to frame. Laura smiled politely. "We've had some interesting conversations," she said. "Interesting." Jared's jaw flexed almost imperceptibly. Around us, executives continued mingling, but attention drifted toward our circle. No one understood the full story, but everyone sensed the tension. "Shall we get a drink?" Jared suggested. It sounded casual. It wasn't. We moved toward the bar as a unit. For people. 2 marriages. 1 truth. Nora's hand brushed Jared's sleeve briefly as they walked. Laura saw it. So did I. At the bar, Jared positioned himself between Nora and me instinctively. Territorial. Calculated. Laura stood beside me. "Palm Springs seems to bring out patterns," she said conversationally. Jared's eyes flicked toward her. "I'm not sure what you mean," he replied. "I think you do." Her tone remained calm, controlled. Nora's smile tightened. "This feels unnecessary," she said quietly. "Does it?" I asked. She looked at me then, really looked. And for the first time in months, I saw uncertainty in her eyes. Because the narrative wasn't fully hers anymore. Jared attempted to pivot. "Let's not create drama at a professional event." Professional. That word almost made me laugh. "No one's creating drama," I said evenly. "We're just adjusting optics." Silence. Laura reached into her clutch and placed something gently on the bar. A printed expense report. September. The Shoreline Grand. 2 guests. Jared's corporate signature. He didn't touch it. Didn't need to. He recognized it instantly. Nora went pale. "You went through my laptop?" she whispered. "No," I said calmly. "I went through patterns." The bartender stepped away discreetly. Conversations around us grew softer. No shouting. No accusations. Just exposure. Laura spoke next. "I think we've all been performing long enough." Jared inhaled slowly. "This isn't the place." "That's the point," she replied. Nora looked between us now, calculating damage. "Mark," she began, lowering her voice. "We can talk about this privately. We've had months to do that," I said. The weight of public awareness shifted the power dynamic. Jared was used to control. He wasn't used to unpredictability. And arriving with Laura had removed the isolation he relied on. The room didn't erupt. There was no scene. But something fractured visibly. The illusion. The carefully curated image of 2 stable marriages. Nora realized I knew. Jared realized Laura knew. Laura realized she wasn't invisible. And I realized something else. Power shifts quietly. Not with yelling. But with alignment. Jared stepped back first. "I think we should all take some space," he said tightly. "Agreed," Laura replied. Nora's composure was cracking now. "Mark, please." I looked at her. Really looked. The woman I had defended. The woman who had told me I was paranoid. "You underestimated something," I said quietly. "What?" she asked. "You underestimated what happens when people stop accepting your version of reality." Her eyes filled, but not with the control she usually maintained. With fear. Not of losing me, of losing control. And in that ballroom, under polished lights and curated reputations, the roles collapsed. No shouting. No spectacle. Just truth placed gently on a bar counter. and the understanding that none of us would walk out unchanged. After that night, the illusion collapsed fast. Nora didn't scream. She didn't deny it anymore. She just looked at me like she was calculating survival. Jared pulled away from her publicly within days. Damage control in full swing. Laura filed for separation. I stopped arguing, stopped negotiating, stopped trying to fix something that had already been dismantled in secret. I moved into the guest room first, then into my own apartment. No dramatic speeches, just boundaries, distance, silence where there used to be compromise. Jared lost more than reputation. His board pushed him out quietly. Nora lost the fantasy that there would be no consequences. And I lost the version of my life I thought was permanent. But I gained something steadier, clarity. I chose not revenge, not public humiliation, just exit. The man who believed he controlled every outcome miscalculated one variable. Me.